There is something about your journey that you have not fully understood yet. The pain, the rejection, the doors that closed, the people who walked away, the moments when you were left questioning your own worth, none of it has to mean that your life was going in the wrong direction. Sometimes the deepest transformation begins in a season that looks like loss. Sometimes what feels like silence is actually preparation. And sometimes the reason you could not move forward was not because you were forgotten, but because you were being shaped for a responsibility you were not yet ready to carry. Chosen one. You may have noticed something unusual about yourself. You do not always react the way people expect you to react. You can be hurt deeply and still remain quiet. You can be betrayed and still choose dignity. You can be underestimated and still refuse to become bitter. People may have mistaken your silence for weakness. They may have mistaken your patience for fear. They may have mistaken your kindness for stupidity. They may have looked at your withdrawal and assumed that you had been defeated. But they did not know what was happening inside you. They did not see the battles you fought without announcing them. They did not hear the questions you asked in the darkness. They did not see how many times you had to gather yourself and continue when nobody was there to encourage you. They saw the outside. They did not see the transformation happening within. They underestimated you. And perhaps the most powerful thing you ever did was refuse to explain yourself to everyone. You learned that not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every plan needs to be revealed. Not every accusation deserves an answer. Not every misunderstanding deserves a battle. There is wisdom in observing before reacting. There is strength in remaining calm when someone expects you to lose control. There is power in knowing who you are without constantly demanding that others recognize it. Your silence was not weakness. Your silence may have been the place where you discovered yourself. There were moments when you wanted answers immediately. You wanted the door to open immediately. You wanted justice immediately. You wanted certain people to understand what they had done. But life did not move according to your urgency, and that was painful. Yet this is where divine timing begins to change the way you see your journey. God knows what you cannot see. You see one moment. Divine wisdom sees the road beyond it. You see the closed door. You may not see what that door was protecting you from. You see the delay. You may not see what was still being prepared. You see the loss. You may not see what that loss was teaching you about yourself. Your delay was not your ending. Not every closed door is punishment. Not every delay is rejection. Sometimes patience is not passive waiting. Sometimes patience is preparation with dignity. You were being taught to stop chasing what continually drained you. You were being taught to recognize what deserves your energy and what does not. You were being taught that your value cannot depend on applause, attention, approval, or acceptance, and then something begins to awaken inside you. You start seeing people differently. You stop believing every promise simply because it sounds beautiful. You stop giving unlimited access to people who repeatedly disrespect your boundaries. You stop confusing loneliness with failure. You stop fearing your own company. You begin to understand that peace is more valuable than being accepted by everyone. This is spiritual awakening, not becoming superior to others, becoming more responsible for who you are. The chosen one is not someone who believes they are better than everyone else. It is a symbolic identity for the person who chooses responsibility when ego would be easier, wisdom when anger would be easier, patience when desperation would be easier, and integrity when nobody is watching. Chosen one. You do not need revenge. You do not need to destroy anyone. You do not need to spend your life proving people wrong. Justice does not require revenge. Let truth have its own time. Let consequences belong to the choices that created them. Let your character speak louder than your anger. If someone misunderstood you, you do not have to become cruel just to prove that you were right. Truth reveals itself, sometimes slowly, sometimes painfully. But your responsibility is not to control when everyone understands. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to what is right. You were not forgotten. Even when the road became quiet, your journey continued. Even when nobody celebrated your progress, Something inside you was becoming stronger. Every difficult season demanded something from you: greater patience, greater discipline, greater courage, greater wisdom. And one day you may look back and realize that the person who begged for acceptance had disappeared. In their place stands someone calmer, someone wiser, someone who no longer needs to announce their strength, someone who understands that destiny is not simply about receiving something extraordinary. Destiny is also about becoming capable of carrying it without losing your humility. That is the real sign, not fame, not attention, not superiority, but character, the ability to remain kind without becoming weak, to remain strong without becoming arrogant, to forgive without returning to harmful situations, to walk away without hatred, to wait without losing faith, to continue without needing everyone to understand. Your legacy is being built, not only through what you accomplish, but through who you become while accomplishing it. So if you are standing in a season where nothing seems clear, breathe. Do not rush simply because others are moving. Do not abandon your values simply because someone else does not respect them. Do not measure your destiny by today's circumstances. And do not let yesterday's rejection write tomorrow's identity, chosen one. You have survived moments you once thought would break you. You have learned lessons you never wanted to learn. You have walked through silence that forced you to hear your own heart. And perhaps the greatest revelation is this: you were never required to be understood by everyone. You were required to keep becoming, keep your heart humble, keep your mind disciplined, keep your intentions clean, keep your connection with one God strong. Let patience protect you from desperate decisions. Let wisdom protect you from unnecessary battles. Let courage protect you from surrender. They underestimated you. Let them. Your silence was not weakness. Your delay was not your ending. You were not forgotten. Truth reveals itself. Justice does not require revenge. And your legacy is being built quietly through every choice you make when nobody is watching. So walk forward. Not with arrogance, with certainty, not with revenge, with peace, not with desperation, with patience, because destiny does not always announce itself with thunder. Sometimes it grows quietly inside the person who refuses to give up. And when the time is right, you may finally understand why the road had to be this long, why the waiting had to be this deep, and why divine wisdom allowed you to become someone stronger than the person who first began the journey, chosen one. Your story is not defined by what they did to you. It is defined by who you became afterward. Be patient. Stay faithful to what is right. Trust divine wisdom and keep walking, because your journey is still becoming the evidence of what patience can build when one soul refuses to surrender its purpose. Chosen one. There is another sign you may have overlooked. You are beginning to lose interest in things that once controlled you. The approval that once felt necessary does not feel as powerful anymore. The opinions that once kept you awake at night are slowly becoming quieter. You are beginning to understand that not everyone deserves an explanation, not everyone deserves access to your heart, and not everyone deserves a front row seat to your transformation. Something is changing, and change can feel lonely before it feels powerful. There may have been a season when you constantly asked, why am I being treated this way? Why do people misunderstand me? Why does everything seem harder for me? But eventually, the question begins to change. You stop asking, why me? And you start asking, what is this teaching me? That question changes everything, because when you begin searching for wisdom instead of simply searching for comfort, your entire perspective becomes different. You begin to understand that some people entered your life to teach you what trust means. Others taught you boundaries. Some taught you patience. Some taught you the consequences of ignoring your own intuition. And some experiences taught you something even deeper. They taught you that you can survive without being understood. That lesson is not small. There is a strange freedom that comes when you stop trying to convince everyone that your heart is good. You know your intentions. Young God knows your intentions. That is enough. You no longer need to stand in front of every person who judged you and present evidence of your character. You no longer need to chase people who walked away. You no longer need to force closed doors open simply because you are afraid of what lies beyond them. Sometimes the closed door is not the end of your story. Sometimes it is simply a direction. And perhaps this is one of the signs that you are awakening. You are becoming less desperate to control the outcome. You still have dreams, you still have ambitions, you still want your life to change. But you are learning that desire does not mean desperation. You can work hard without becoming obsessed. You can pray without demanding a specific timeline. You can hope without losing yourself when the answer takes longer than expected. You can move forward without knowing every detail of what comes next. That is maturity, that is spiritual strength. And that is why your journey may look different from the journey of others. You are learning to trust the process without worshiping the process. You are learning to pursue your purpose without allowing success to become your identity. You are learning that material achievement means very little if your character collapses while you are achieving it. Chosen one. Perhaps your greatest test was never whether you could become successful. Perhaps it was whether you could become successful without becoming someone you no longer recognize. That is the deeper battle. Because the world can reward arrogance, it can reward selfishness, it can reward appearances. But your soul needs something deeper. It needs peace, it needs integrity, it needs meaning. It needs a connection with one God that does not disappear when life becomes difficult. And maybe that is why some seasons stripped so much away. The distractions became unbearable. Certain relationships became impossible to maintain. Certain environments stopped feeling like home. Certain ambitions suddenly felt empty. At first, you thought you were losing everything. But perhaps you were discovering what actually mattered. This is where many people misunderstand transformation. They think transformation always looks like gaining something. Sometimes transformation looks like letting go. Letting go of the need to be admired. Letting go of the need to win every argument, letting go of resentment, letting go of people who repeatedly disturb your peace, letting go of the version of yourself that believed suffering was the only proof of strength. You do not have to suffer forever to prove that you are strong. You can choose peace, you can choose wisdom, you can choose distance. You can choose discipline, you can choose yourself without becoming selfish. And when you begin making those choices, some people may not recognize you anymore. That is okay. You were never created to remain exactly who you were 5 years ago, 3 years ago, or even yesterday. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to become quieter. You are allowed to change your priorities. You are allowed to stop explaining your evolution to people who only knew your old version, chosen one. They underestimated you because they judged the chapter instead of the entire story. They saw your waiting and called it failure. They saw your silence and called it weakness. They saw your distance and called it defeat. But they did not know what was happening inside you. They did not see the discipline being built. They did not see the wisdom being developed. They did not see the wounds becoming lessons. They did not see the person emerging from the darkness with a deeper understanding of life. Your silence was not weakness. Your delay was not your ending. You were not forgotten. And the more you understand this, the less you need to prove. You begin moving differently. You speak less, but mean more. You react less, but observe more. You chase less, but prepare more. You fear less because you have learned that uncertainty does not mean abandonment. And when something does not work, you no longer immediately assume that your life is falling apart. You pause, you reflect, you ask what can be learned, you ask what must change, you ask what one God may be teaching you through this season. That is the difference between merely surviving life and awakening to it. Awakening does not mean that every problem disappears. It means you become different in the presence of problems. The storm may still exist, but you are no longer the same person standing inside it, chosen one. Do not measure your worth by how quickly your circumstances change. Measure your growth by how you respond while they are changing. If you can remain patient when you are frustrated, if you can remain honest when dishonesty would be easier, if you can remain compassionate without abandoning your boundaries, if you can remain humble when recognition finally comes, then you are building something far more valuable than temporary success. You are building a life that can carry responsibility. And perhaps that is the hidden sign you have been searching for, not that you are above others, but that you are becoming stronger than the person you used to be. Not that you are guaranteed an easy future, but that you are learning how to walk through uncertainty with wisdom. Not that everyone will suddenly recognize you, but that you no longer need their recognition to continue. Chosen one, keep walking, keep learning. Keep your heart clean, keep your intentions sincere. Let time reveal what you cannot reveal yourself. Let truth speak when you no longer have the strength to explain. Let justice unfold without turning your heart into a battlefield. Because the person you are becoming is more important than the people who once misunderstood you. And one day, you may realize that the greatest sign was never what happened around you. It was what happened within you. You became patient, you became disciplined, you became wiser, you became harder to manipulate. You became less desperate for approval, you became more conscious of your purpose, and above everything else, you learned to walk forward with one God, even when you could not see the entire road. That is not weakness. That is strength, that is awakening, and that is the kind of transformation that does not need an audience. It simply becomes impossible to hide. Chosen one. There is one more sign that many people never recognize until much later. You have endured seasons that should have made you bitter, yet somehow you still carry compassion. Think about that for a moment. You have been disappointed by people you trusted. You have been overlooked when you gave your best. You have watched others receive recognition while your efforts remained unseen. You have experienced moments when fairness seemed absent and answers seemed far away. Yet despite everything, there is still a part of you that refuses to become cold. That is not weakness, that is evidence of inner strength. Because anyone can be kind when life is easy. Anyone can be hopeful when everything is going their way. The real test comes when life becomes difficult. The real test comes when you are given every reason to become angry, cynical, and resentful, but choose a different path, chosen one. Many people never see the invisible battles. They only see the result. They see your calmness, but not the storms you survived. They see your wisdom, but not the confusion you endured to gain it. They see your confidence, but not the nights you doubted yourself. They see your patience, but not the countless moments when giving up seemed easier. That is why people often misunderstand your journey. They are looking at the surface while your story was written in deeper places. The truth is that some of your greatest victories will never be visible to the world. No applause followed the moment you chose self-control over anger. No audience celebrated the day you walked away from something unhealthy. No crowd stood and cheered when you decided to heal instead of seeking revenge. Yet those moments mattered. Those moments shaped you. Those moments became part of your character. And character is what remains when circumstances change. Money can come and go. Opportunities can appear and disappear. People can enter and leave your life, but character stays, wisdom stays, integrity stays. That is why your journey has been focused on deeper lessons. God may allow temporary struggles to teach permanent truths. You may lose something and discover your resilience. You may face rejection and discover your value. You may walk through loneliness and discover your relationship with yourself. You may experience delay and discover patience. Not because suffering is the goal, but because growth often happens in places comfort cannot reach, chosen one. There is also a reason why you have become more selective with your energy. You have learned that not every battle deserves your attention, not every criticism deserves your response, not every invitation deserves your presence, not every opportunity deserves your commitment. In the past, you may have felt responsible for fixing everything, for helping everyone, for carrying burdens that were never yours. But wisdom teaches something different. Wisdom teaches that saying no is sometimes an act of self-respect. Wisdom teaches that boundaries are not walls of hatred, they are doors of discernment. Wisdom teaches that protecting your peace is not selfish when that peace allows you to become a better person. And perhaps this is why your circle became smaller, not because you failed, not because you were abandoned, but because clarity often removes what confusion once tolerated. As your vision becomes clearer, certain connections naturally fade. As your purpose becomes stronger, certain distractions lose their power. As your values become deeper, certain environments stop feeling comfortable. At first, this can feel painful. It can feel like loss. But sometimes what leaves creates space for what truly belongs. Your delay was not your ending. Your isolation was not your destruction. Your silence was not weakness. There were lessons hidden in those seasons, lessons that could not be learned any other way. Chosen one. Another sign is that your victories no longer look the same. There was a time when winning meant proving someone wrong. Now winning means becoming more peaceful. There was a time when success meant receiving recognition. Now success means maintaining your integrity. There was a time when you wanted everyone to understand you. Now you understand that being understood by everyone is impossible. This shift changes everything, because once you stop living for approval, you begin living with intention. You make decisions based on principles instead of pressure. You move according to purpose instead of popularity. You become less concerned with appearances and more concerned with truth. And that is when real freedom begins. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is no longer being controlled by every opinion, every criticism, every rejection, and every fear. Freedom is knowing who you are without needing constant confirmation from the outside world. Chosen one. Truth reveals itself, not always immediately, not always dramatically, but eventually. Masks become difficult to maintain forever. Fictions reveal themselves through actions. Character reveals itself through time. And reality has a way of exposing what illusion tries to hide. That is why you do not need to force every outcome. You do not need to spend your life correcting every false story. You do not need to carry the burden of making everyone see what you see. Some things become clear only with time. Some lessons can only be taught by experience. Some truths reveal themselves when the moment is right. Justice does not require revenge. Ride that again in your heart. Justice does not require revenge. You do not have to become what hurt you. You do not have to mirror the behavior that wounded you. You do not have to lose your dignity in order to feel powerful. Real power is maintaining your principles when abandoning them would be easier. Real power is controlling yourself when emotions demand control of others. Real power is continuing forward without allowing bitterness to become your identity. Chosen one. Your legacy is being built not through perfection, not through fame, not through the approval of crowds. Your legacy is being built through every difficult choice to remain faithful to your values. Every time you choose honesty over deception, every time you choose patience over panic, every time you choose discipline over excuses. Every time you choose faith over despair, a legacy is not created in one dramatic moment. It is created in thousands of quiet decisions. And many of those decisions happen when nobody is watching. That is why you must never underestimate the value of your present season, even if progress feels slow, even if answers feel distant, even if the road ahead remains unclear. You are still growing, you are still learning, you are still becoming. You are not forgotten, you are being prepared. And perhaps the greatest sign of all is this: you no longer need life to be easy in order to keep moving forward. You no longer need constant validation in order to believe in your purpose. You no longer need immediate results in order to trust the process of growth. You have learned to walk with patience. You have learned to stand with dignity. You have learned to trust the wisdom of one God even when the destination remains hidden. Chosen one. Keep your heart humble. Keep your spirit strong. Keep your eyes on what truly matters. Because your journey was never only about reaching a destination, it was about becoming the kind of person who could carry that destination with wisdom, gratitude, courage, and unwavering faith in the perfect timing of one God.